In the vastness of the cosmos, where star systems rise and fall like waves in an endless ocean, humanity was little more than a forgotten ripple, mocked, dismissed, and underestimated by the galaxy's most powerful factions. They were seen as primitives, a species lost to the sands of time, incapable of influencing the greater forces at play in the universe. But deep within the ruins of an ancient world, buried beneath millennia of dust and decay, a secret weapon lay dormant, waiting to be awakened. When the alien scouts stumbled upon the lone human in the wastelands, they saw nothing more than a weak, insignificant remnant of a bygone era. They laughed at the sight of the ragged figure, unaware that the discovery they made would soon shake the foundations of the galaxy. For this human was not as primitive as they appeared, and what they had uncovered was no mere artifact. It was a relic of unimaginable power, forged by a long-forgotten civilization. The Galactic Council, upon receiving the news, was quick to mock, quick to scoff at the thought of a single human wielding any sort of influence. But that mockery would soon turn to fear. As the human unlocked the secrets of the ancient armor, a power beyond anything the galaxy had seen in centuries was unleashed. The tides of battle shifted, and in an instant, the galaxy's perception of humanity was shattered. Now, with the weight of a galaxy's future on their shoulders, this once mocked human must navigate a universe on the brink of chaos. The armor they wear holds not only immense power but a dark secret, a weapon that could either protect or destroy everything. And as factions vie for control, one thing becomes clear: humanity's role in the galaxy is about to change forever. A vast, desolate landscape stretches endlessly beneath the alien scouts' craft as they glide silently through the atmosphere of an uncharted planet. The scanners flicker with minimal signs of life. This place, they believe, is a wasteland. The crew, seasoned explorers, is accustomed to surveying barren worlds, always on the lookout for traces of potential resources or ancient remnants. Today, however, as they descend, their monitors pick up something unexpected, a faint blip indicating life. Primitive perhaps, but undeniably present. The scout leader frowns, curiosity piqued. As their craft touches down on the surface, the oppressive silence of the planet envelops them. Weapons at the ready, they step onto the dusty ground, their senses heightened. In the distance, standing amidst the ruins of a long-forgotten structure, they spot it, a figure, humanoid, standing still as though it were part of the desolate scenery. It's human, the scanners confirm. Ragged, worn down by the elements, but unmistakably human. The scouts exchange puzzled looks. What could a single human be doing on a planet this remote and forsaken? The being appears weak, its clothes little more than tattered remnants. And yet, despite its outward frailty, something about the human's posture suggests defiance, a quiet strength beneath the surface. The leader steps forward, cautiously assessing the human. There are no signs of advanced technology, no visible weaponry. This human should pose no threat. Yet, as their eyes meet, a chill runs down the leader's spine. There is something more here, an undercurrent of awareness, a secret carried deep within this primitive being that stirs an uneasy feeling in the scouts. They prepare to report back to the Galactic Council, certain of the mockery they'll face for discovering such an insignificant creature. But as they turn away, a subtle tension lingers in the air, one that the scouts can't quite shake. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with activity, its towering members from various star systems seated in ornate thrones, each adorned with symbols of their civilizations. Conversations overlapped in the air, debates about trade routes, territorial disputes, and the occasional report of minor planetary discoveries. Among them, the report from the alien scouts arrived with little fanfare, delivered with the same indifference reserved for trivial matters. "A human?" one council member scoffed, its voice echoing through the chamber. Its reptilian eyes narrowed with amusement as it reviewed the holographic display of the scouts' findings. On a deserted planet, no less. How quaint. Ripples of laughter spread through the assembly, each species expressing their own brand of ridicule. To them, humans were an afterthought, a species whose relevance had faded long ago in the grand scale of galactic affairs. Weak, isolated, insignificant. The mere mention of one surviving in the desolation of an abandoned world seemed almost comical. Counselor Orask, one of the elder members, leaned forward, his metallic fingers tapping rhythmically against the armrest of his seat. I remember when humans first made their attempt at interstellar travel. Their ships were little more than floating debris, crude and inefficient. Now, we're expected to be impressed by the survival of one lone primitive? His laughter was cold, detached, as though the very idea of humanity ever posing a threat had long been dismissed. The council agreed, nodding in unison. There was no further discussion, no sense of urgency or concern. The image of the ragged human standing among ruins was quickly dismissed as irrelevant, a relic of a forgotten past. But beneath the mockery and scorn, a single voice hesitated, a counselor from the outer systems, whose face was hidden behind a veil of shimmering light. Unlike the others, they did not laugh. Instead, they studied the human's eyes in the hologram, the same eyes that had unsettled the scouts. There was something about this human that didn't sit well, something beyond the surface that the others had failed to notice. As the laughter subsided, the council moved on to other matters. Yet, the image of the human lingered in the mind of this silent observer, a question forming in the back of their mind. Perhaps the scouts had overlooked something vital. The wind howled through the desolate landscape as the humans stood alone, surrounded by the decaying remnants of a once great civilization. For days, they had wandered the ruins, their mind focused on a single goal, uncovering what remained of the ancient ship buried deep within the rubble. Its presence had been a mystery even to the original inhabitants of this forsaken world. But to the human, it was the key to survival, and perhaps something more. As the sun set on another cold, barren day, the human search led them deeper into the ruins. The faint outlines of the ship emerged through layers of dust and debris, its hull scorched and cracked from a forgotten battle. There was no doubt now this was no ordinary vessel. Its design was foreign, far beyond the capabilities of the human's time, yet it seemed oddly familiar, as though it had been waiting for someone to find it. Cautiously, the human approached, their breath steady but shallow, eyes scanning for any signs of danger. The ship, though ancient, hummed faintly with power, a soft glow emanating from the cracks in its hull. Its technology had survived millennia, and now it whispered of secrets long buried. Stepping closer, the human placed a hand on the cool metal, feeling a pulse of energy ripple beneath their fingertips. Inside the wreckage, consoles flickered to life, responding to the touch of the human as if recognizing an old acquaintance. The ship's systems, though damaged, slowly reawakened, lights illuminating the darkened corridors. Every step forward felt like a journey into the past, a past that held the answers to questions the human hadn't even thought to ask. The deeper the human ventured, the more the true nature of the ship revealed itself. Strange symbols lined the walls, intricate designs that hinted at a civilization far older and more advanced than any known to the galaxy. In one chamber, a control panel displayed holographic images of galaxies far beyond, mapping routes and coordinates no living being had ever seen. This was more than a ship. It was a relic of an era when space was still a frontier of discovery. Yet, as the humans studied the technology, something else caught their eye. A compartment in the ship's core, sealed tightly. Whatever was inside, it had been hidden away with great care. For a moment, the human hesitated, sensing that what lay beyond this barrier could change everything. But there was no turning back now. With a deep breath, they activated the final command. The door slid open with a quiet hiss, revealing a chamber bathed in soft light. And there, suspended in the air, was an artifact unlike anything they had ever seen. An ancient suit of armor, gleaming with a power that seemed both familiar and otherworldly. The human stood motionless for a moment, eyes locked on the ancient armor suspended before them. It wasn't just a relic, it was a masterpiece of technology and craftsmanship, unlike anything they had ever encountered. The armor's surface shimmered with intricate engravings, pulsing faintly with an energy that seemed to resonate with the very air around it. The sheer magnitude of the discovery sent a shiver down the human's spine. Approaching the armor cautiously, they felt a connection, an inexplicable bond, as though the armor had been waiting for them specifically. The symbols etched across its surface were familiar, echoes of the designs found elsewhere in the ship. But these were far more detailed, carrying the weight of forgotten knowledge. The human's hand hovered over it, feeling the heat of the energy pulsating from within, an energy that promised untold power. Instinctively, the human reached out, fingers brushing against the cold metal. The moment contact was made, a surge of power coursed through their body, almost overwhelming. The armor responded, its mechanisms whirring to life, shifting and adjusting as though calibrating itself. Symbols on its surface lit up, one by one, cascading across the metal in waves of light. The room seemed to hum in response, vibrating with a deep resonance that echoed through the ship's core. Without fully understanding why, the human stepped forward into the armor, allowing it to envelop their body. The process was seamless, panels and sections of the armor shifting and closing around them, as if the suit was alive, conforming perfectly to their form. A rush of energy filled the human, every sense heightened, every muscle brimming with newfound strength. Visions flooded their mind, memories that weren't their own. Battles fought eons ago, star systems in flames, ancient warriors clad in the same armor, standing as the last defense against an unstoppable force. This armor had seen the rise and fall of empires. It had been forged for one purpose: to protect and to destroy. The human's breath caught in their throat as they realized the significance of what they were wearing. This was no ordinary piece of technology. It was a weapon, one of unimaginable power, a weapon tied to a civilization that had long vanished from the galaxy. Yet, somehow, it had been left behind. For them, the weight of responsibility settled heavily on the humans' shoulders. They understood now that this discovery would change everything. This was more than just a tool for survival. It was the key to something much greater, something the rest of the galaxy had forgotten or had chosen to bury in the depths of history. As the armor fully integrated with the human's body, they felt a surge of confidence, a sense of destiny intertwining with the unknown. The galaxy would soon learn that this primitive human was anything but weak. The human, now clad in the ancient armor, could feel the weight of its history coursing through them. The visions that had flooded their mind moments ago were not random. They were fragments of a civilization long forgotten by the galaxy. A civilization that had once spanned star systems, commanding both fear and respect before it had mysteriously vanished. And this armor, this relic of untold power, was their creation. As the humans stood in the silence of the ship, the enormity of their discovery began to sink in. This wasn't just a piece of technology. This was a remnant of an empire that had wielded power far beyond anything the Galactic Council could comprehend. And now, it was in their hands. News of the discovery spread quickly. The Galactic Council, upon receiving the full report, could no longer mock the human as they had done before. Their scorn was replaced by disbelief, then fear. This was not just some isolated incident, not just the story of a single primitive human surviving on a barren planet. It was the unearthing of a power long buried in the annals of galactic history, one that had the potential to shift the balance of power across the stars. Counselor Orask, who had laughed so heartily at the human's appearance, now stood silent, his mind racing. The reports coming in spoke of an artifact, an ancient armor that held unimaginable power, tied to a civilization known only in whispers and myth. The council convened in emergency meetings, their debates no longer filled with derision, but with panic. If this human had unlocked the secrets of that armor, what else might they be capable of? Historians and archaeologists across the galaxy scrambled to piece together what little remained of the forgotten civilization. Records were scarce, but the few that existed spoke of a race that had once harnessed technology so advanced it seemed like magic to those who encountered it. They had disappeared without a trace, leaving behind only fragments of their legacy, ruins, ships, and now, the armor. As word spread, factions began to take notice. Mercenaries, pirates, and even military forces from various planets turned their attention to the deserted world where the human had been found. Some sought the power of the armor for themselves, while others feared what might happen if it fell into the wrong hands. The galaxy, once indifferent to the existence of a lone human, now teetered on the edge of chaos. But amid the swirling tides of intrigue and fear, the human remained calm, standing in the ruins where it all began. The power of the armor flowed through them, and with it, a sense of purpose. They could feel the eyes of the galaxy upon them. But the ancient suit of armor seemed to whisper a truth even deeper than the secrets it contained. A truth the galaxy had forgotten, but one that was about to be revealed. The barren planet, once forgotten and ignored by the galaxy, had become the epicenter of an impending storm. Various factions from across the stars converged upon it, each with their own agenda. Mercenary ships hovered in the planet's orbit, their crews preparing for a strike. Elite alien warriors, hired by powerful forces, had already landed on the surface, moving silently through the ruins. They all had one target in mind: the ancient armor and the human who now wore it. The human, aware of the growing threat, had taken refuge deep within the labyrinth of ruins, their movements guided by an almost instinctual understanding of the place. The armor seemed to pulse with energy, responding to the tension in the air, as if it too recognized the danger that approached. But the human felt no fear. The power coursing through them was overwhelming, and despite the odds, they knew that the armor held the key to victory. It wasn't long before the first group of attackers arrived. A squad of heavily armed aliens, their bodies encased in advanced exoskeletons, weapons at the ready. They moved with precision, their every step calculated. To them, the human was still nothing more than a primitive, an obstacle to be easily removed in their quest for the armor. They closed in, circling around the human's position. One of the aliens, a commander, stepped forward, his voice amplified through his helmet. "Surrender the armor, human," he snarled, his tone dripping with disdain. "It belongs to us now." But the human didn't respond. They stood silently, their stance calm and unwavering. The armor began to hum softly, its energy building. The aliens mistook the human's silence for weakness, a fatal error. Without warning, the human moved. The armor's power surged, and in an instant, the landscape erupted into chaos. The human's speed was beyond anything the aliens had anticipated. One by one, they fell, their advanced technology no match for the ancient might of the armor. Energy beams ricocheted off its surface as the human weaved through the ranks of attackers, striking with precision and strength that defied their expectations. The commander, stunned by the turn of events, barked orders at his troops, but it was too late. Within moments, the alien squad was decimated, their bodies scattered across the ruins. The commander, the last one standing, stared in disbelief as the human turned toward him, the glow of the armor casting a menacing light over the scene. The human's eyes, now glowing with the same energy that powered the armor, locked onto his. "You underestimated me," the human said quietly, their voice calm but carrying the weight of the ancient power now at their command. Before the commander could react, the final blow was delivered, swift and precise. The battle was over as quickly as it had begun. As the dust settled, the humans stood among the fallen, their expression unchanged. The armor had proven its worth, and the human had shown the galaxy that they were no longer the weak, primitive being they had once been perceived to be. But this was only the beginning. The armor's power had yet to be fully realized, and the galaxy's greatest threats had yet to reveal themselves. The echoes of the battle still lingered in the air as the humans stood in silence, their breath steady, the armor pulsating with a quiet yet menacing energy. Despite the ease with which they had dispatched the attackers, the human knew this was only the beginning. The real threat was still out there, waiting to strike. And now, they understood that the armor wasn't just a shield, it was a weapon. For the first time since donning the armor, the human felt its true potential stirring beneath the surface. There had been glimpses of its power in the earlier skirmish, but now the full weight of its capability began to make itself known. The armor seemed to respond to their thoughts, almost as if it had a consciousness of its own, adapting to the human's will and amplifying their every move. As the human ventured deeper into the ruins, they felt an overwhelming pull toward the center of the ancient structure, as though the armor itself was guiding them. With each step, the power within them grew, the faint hum of the armor turning into a low roar, vibrating through their body. It was intoxicating, almost too much to contain. But the human pressed on, determined to unlock the full potential of the ancient technology. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath their feet. A surge of energy erupted from the core of the ruins, and the armor reacted instantly, its once dormant systems coming to life in a dazzling display of light and sound. The human's body tensed as the armor integrated even further into their physiology, unlocking a new level of strength and speed. It was as though the armor was awakening, releasing power that had been dormant for centuries. The human's vision sharpened, their senses heightened. They could see every detail, hear the faintest sounds, and feel the energy of the planet itself coursing through them. With a single thought, they extended their arm, and from the armor, a blast of pure, concentrated energy shot forth, tearing through the walls of the ruins like they were paper. The sheer force of the blast left the human breathless. It wasn't just power, it was destruction on a scale they had never imagined. The realization hit them like a wave. This was what the armor was truly capable of. Not just defense, not just survival, but devastation. Whoever had created it had designed it for war, for conflict on a scale that spanned galaxies. And now, that power was in the hands of a single human. As the dust settled, the human stood amidst the ruins, the air crackling with the remnants of the energy blast. The armor hummed with satisfaction, as though pleased with its display of power. But with this new strength came an even greater responsibility. The human understood now that this armor could reshape the galaxy, destroy entire worlds, or perhaps protect them. But they also knew that this power would not go unnoticed. The galaxy's attention had already turned toward them, and soon more would come. Some would seek to control the armor, others to destroy it. But whatever their intentions, they would be met with a force unlike anything they had ever seen. And the human, now fully aware of the power they possessed, was ready. The Galactic Council, once so confident in its scorn for humanity, now sat in stunned silence. Reports of the humans' battle against the elite alien forces had spread like wildfire across the galaxy. What was once viewed as a mere primitive had now become the center of attention, wielding a power none of them had anticipated. Counselor Orask, who had previously mocked the human, sat with his hands clasped tightly together, the tension clear in his usually stoic expression. The council chamber was filled with a palpable sense of disbelief. Screens projected the footage of the battle. The human, seemingly alone, cutting through squads of highly trained warriors with terrifying precision. The ancient armor, now recognized as a weapon of unimaginable power, had turned the tide of what should have been an overwhelming assault. And the human, whom they had all dismissed as insignificant, had emerged victorious without so much as a scratch. "This cannot be possible," one counselor muttered under their breath, their multiple eyes flicking between the footage and their fellow members. "How can a single human possess such power?" Orask leaned forward, his voice a low growl. "It's not the human alone. It's the armor. The ancient technology is doing the work." But, he paused, his metallic fingers drumming against the armrest, "the fact that this human has managed to unlock its potential, that is what should concern us." The counselors exchanged uneasy glances. This was more than just an isolated incident. The human's use of the armor had proven that the long-forgotten civilization's technology could still be activated and harnessed, something they had assumed impossible for centuries. Worse still, this human had done so without the advanced training or knowledge that should have been required to operate such a device. As the discussions continued, one counselor, a member from the outer systems who had remained silent during the earlier mockery, finally spoke. "We underestimated them, but now we must decide how to act." Their voice was calm, yet there was an underlying tension. If this human has the power to change the balance of the galaxy, it is no longer a question of if we act, but how. A heavy silence fell over the room. They all knew what was coming. The galaxy's most powerful factions would soon make their moves, each one vying for control of the armor. Some would offer alliances, others would bring war. But one thing was certain: the human, with the armor now fully activated, had become a force that could no longer be ignored. As the council session adjourned, Orask remained seated, lost in thought. The human had defied every expectation, turning what should have been an insignificant encounter into a galaxy-shaking event. And now, with the armor fully operational, there was no telling what kind of power would be unleashed next. He rose slowly, a plan forming in his mind. If the human could be controlled, perhaps the council could harness this power for their own ends. But if not, the galaxy would soon face a war like no other. As the human ventured deeper into the mystery of the armor, they began to sense something more beneath the surface, a presence, an awareness within the technology itself. The armor, though seemingly inert when first discovered, now felt almost alive, responding to their thoughts, guiding their actions. But with this growing connection came a creeping unease, a sense that the power they wielded was not entirely their own. It started as whispers, faint and distant, barely noticeable amid the noise of the galaxy's unfolding chaos. But as the human donned the armor more frequently, those whispers grew louder, taking form in their mind. At first, they dismissed it as a side effect of the immense power coursing through the suit. But soon, the whispers became clearer, carrying with them images, fragments of memories that did not belong to the human. Late one night, as they sat alone in the ruins, the human closed their eyes, letting the whispers wash over them. The visions became sharper, revealing scenes of destruction. Planets consumed by fire, star systems collapsing into voids, civilizations wiped from existence. In every vision, the armor was at the center, worn by figures from a long-lost race, wielding power so great that it threatened the very fabric of reality. The human's heart raced as the truth began to crystallize in their mind. The armor, though powerful, was not merely a tool of defense or war. It was a weapon of unimaginable destruction, created not just to fight enemies, but to annihilate entire civilizations. And its creators, the long-forgotten race, had realized this too late. They had vanished, not because they were conquered, but because their own creation had turned against them. The armor was cursed, bound by an ancient will that sought only to destroy, to consume. And now, that will had begun to awaken within the human. Panic surged through the human as they tried to resist the pull of the armor. But the connection had already taken root, deeper than they had realized. The more they fought it, the stronger it became, feeding off their fear and doubt. The whispers grew louder, urging them to unleash the full might of the armor, to become the harbinger of a new age of destruction. But the human, though tempted by the power, fought back. They had come too far to lose themselves now. With every ounce of strength, they pushed against the will of the armor, refusing to become its puppet. But even as they resisted, the dark truth remained clear. This was no ordinary power. It was a force that, if left unchecked, could consume not just the human, but the entire galaxy. And so the human made a vow to master the armor, to control the dark power within, and to ensure that the mistakes of the past were not repeated. But they knew it would not be easy. The armor was a living relic of a forgotten age, with its own desires and purposes. And though the human had gained control for now, the battle for their soul had only just begun. The humans stood at the edge of a precipice, the ruins of the ancient civilizations stretching out before them, now mere shadows of their former glory. The weight of the armor settled heavily on their shoulders, not just physically, but emotionally, as they fully grasped the magnitude of their responsibility. What had begun as a struggle for survival on a forgotten planet had now escalated into something far more profound. The galaxy, once indifferent to the existence of a single human, now watched with bated breath. News of the human's mastery over the ancient armor had spread to every corner of the cosmos, and with it, the knowledge that this once dismissed species now held the power to shape the future of entire star systems. The Galactic Council, still reeling from their underestimation, debated whether the human was a savior or a threat, and factions across the galaxy prepared to make their own moves. But the human knew that this was no longer about them. This was about something greater, a struggle for the future of the galaxy itself. The dark power within the armor was a reminder of the dangers that unchecked ambition could bring, but it was also a symbol of hope, a hope that, through understanding and restraint, even the most destructive forces could be harnessed for good. As they looked out into the vastness of space, the human made a decision. The galaxy needed more than just power. It needed wisdom, balance, and protection from the mistakes of the past. And they, as the bearer of the armor, would take on that responsibility. No longer would they allow others to dictate the fate of their kind. Humanity, long seen as insignificant in the grand scheme of the galaxy, had now been given a role unlike any other: to guard the very balance of the universe. But the path ahead was fraught with danger. The factions that sought the armor for their own gain would stop at nothing to seize its power. And there were still secrets within the armor that even the human had yet to uncover. The dark presence that whispered in their mind had been subdued for now, but it lingered, waiting for the right moment to resurface. The human clenched their fists, feeling the armor's energy respond to their resolve. They would not allow the galaxy to fall into chaos, not again. With every battle fought, every challenge faced, they would prove that humanity was no longer the weak, primitive race the galaxy had once mocked. They would show that with power came responsibility, and that they, as the bearer of the ancient armor, would protect the galaxy from its own destruction. But even as they prepared for the coming trials, the human couldn't shake the feeling that something even greater was on the horizon. The galaxy had changed forever, and with it, humanity's place within it. What came next would not just determine the fate of one planet or one species, it would determine the future of everything. The human, now fully aware of their role in the universe, stepped forward, ready to face whatever came next. The galaxy may have once mocked them, but now it would remember their name. For they were not just the wearer of an ancient armor, they were the protector of worlds, the guardian of balance, and the last line of defense against the unknown. As the dust of battle settles and the echoes of war fade into the cosmos, one truth becomes undeniable. What the galaxy once mocked, it now fears. Humanity, long viewed as a mere footnote in the grand narrative of the stars, has emerged as a force to be reckoned with. The ancient armor, a relic of a civilization forgotten by time, has not only elevated a single human but has transformed the fate of their entire species. The Galactic Council, which once laughed at the mere mention of a human wielding power, now trembles in the shadow of what they dismissed. Factions that once sought to dominate the galaxy now look to humanity, uncertain whether to fear them or seek an alliance. But this shift is not just about power. It's about survival, about balance in a galaxy on the edge of chaos. And what of the human who wears the armor? They stand at a crossroads, holding the fate of civilizations in their hands. The armor's dark secrets have been revealed, and the weight of its power threatens to consume them. Yet, with this power comes the responsibility to protect the galaxy from the very forces that once mocked them. They must decide whether to be a harbinger of destruction or a beacon of hope. But this story isn't just about them. It's about all of us. In a universe filled with vast, unknown dangers, we too are faced with choices that shape the future. What would you do if you held such power? Would you let it corrupt you? Or would you rise above, using it to defend those who cannot defend themselves? These questions, though wrapped in the fabric of a distant galaxy, resonate with our own lives. We are all more capable than we realize, and often it is the underestimated who make the greatest impact. As this chapter of the story closes, we're left with a question. What comes next? The galaxy has been forever changed, and humanity's role in it is just beginning. The decisions made now will echo through the stars for generations to come. If you've been captivated by this journey, there are many more stories waiting to be told. To continue unraveling the mysteries of the universe and explore tales that challenge your mind and stir your emotions, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and be the first to embark on the next great adventure. Together, we'll dive deeper into the unknown and discover what it truly means to shape the future.